In 1962, Taco Bell's entire menu had just 5 items. Everything cost 19 cents. No Doritos Locos Tacos, no Baja Blast, no Crunchwrap Supreme folded like edible origami. Just a handful of simple foods served from a tiny walk-up restaurant in Downey, California. And somehow, that tiny menu built one of the most recognizable fast food empires in America. But here's the weird part. The bigger Taco Bell got, the more its original menu started to disappear. And today, some of the foods that built Taco Bell are gone, forgotten, or only return when the company wants to sell people nostalgia with a side of mild sauce. So how did Taco Bell's first menu rise from 19-cent tacos? And why did it eventually fall apart? The original menu wasn't just small, it was shockingly small. Tacos, burritos, tostadas, frijoles, and a chili burger. Apparently, even Taco Bell wasn't fully convinced it was Taco Bell yet. That's it. No secret menu, no hidden options, no can I substitute this for that. If you walked up to the window, those were your choices. And somehow, that was enough to start everything. Long before Taco Bell became a late-night ritual or a meme factory, it started with one very specific problem. Americans didn't understand Mexican food. In the 1950s, if you told someone to try a taco, there's a good chance they'd hesitate, not because it tasted bad, but because it was unfamiliar, and unfamiliar doesn't sell fast. That's where Glen Bell comes in. Bell wasn't a chef, he wasn't even Mexican. He was just a guy obsessed with one question: why does this food work, but only in certain places? So he did something most competitors would never bother doing. He studied it, not in a lab, not in a boardroom. He literally stood outside Mexican restaurants in Los Angeles and watched how tacos were made, timing the process, studying the flow, figuring out where things slowed down. Bell realized something simple but powerful. The issue wasn't the food itself, it was how long it took to make. And in a country that was rapidly falling in love with fast food, speed was everything. So instead of copying Mexican food exactly, Bell redesigned it. He made it faster, more consistent, easier to produce at scale. Crispy shells that could be pre-made, ingredients that could be assembled in seconds, flavors that felt just familiar enough for people to try it for the first time. It wasn't traditional, it wasn't engineered. And when he opened his first location in 1962, that approach worked almost immediately. People showed up, not because they were looking for authenticity, but because they were looking for something quick, cheap, and just different enough to feel exciting. And for a while, that simple formula was perfect. But there was one problem. The system that made Taco Bell successful was also too simple to grow. Because once people got used to it, they started wanting more. More variety, more choices, more reasons to come back. And that's where things started to change. At first, Taco Bell's simplicity was its superpower. A small menu meant faster service. Faster service meant more customers. And more customers meant one thing: expansion. By the late 1960s, Taco Bell wasn't just one small stand anymore. It was growing fast. New locations were opening, franchises were spreading, and suddenly the original system, the one built for speed and simplicity, ran into its first real challenge. When you scale a restaurant chain, something weird happens. People stop coming just because it's new and start coming because they have options. And Taco Bell didn't have many. If you've already tried everything after 2 visits, why come back a third time? That's the problem Glen Bell had to solve. Not how to make food faster, but how to give people a reason to return. So Taco Bell made a decision that would change everything. They didn't reinvent the kitchen, they reinvented the menu. Instead of adding completely new ingredients, which would slow everything down, they started rearranging what they already had. Same beef, same tortillas, same cheese, just recombined. A taco becomes a burrito. A burrito gets smothered and becomes something new. A tostada gets layered differently, and suddenly it feels like a completely different item. This was the beginning of something that would define Taco Bell for decades: menu innovation without real innovation. And at first, it worked brilliantly. More items meant more variety. More variety meant customers had a reason to come back. And Taco Bell started to explode in popularity. But there was a hidden cost. Every new item, even if it used the same ingredients, added complexity. More combinations to remember, more assembly steps, more chances for mistakes. And slowly, almost invisibly, the original idea of Taco Bell started to drift. It was no longer just about speed and simplicity, now it was about novelty. And novelty is a dangerous game, because once you start chasing it, you can't really stop. By the 1970s, Taco Bell had figured something out that most fast food chains hadn't. They didn't need new food, they just needed new ideas. And that small shift turned Taco Bell from a growing chain into a cultural force. While other restaurants were locked into rigid menus, burgers, fries, repeat, Taco Bell had built something far more flexible, a system where almost everything came from the same core ingredients, but could be endlessly rearranged into something that felt new. And once they realized that, they didn't slow down, they doubled down. New items started appearing faster, more combinations, more variations, more reasons to come back, and customers loved it. Suddenly, Taco Bell wasn't just a place you went to eat, it was a place where the menu changed, where there was always something new to try, something slightly different, something just weird enough to make you curious. This is when Taco Bell stopped being predictable and started being experimental. And that experimentation led to some of the most iconic items in fast food history: the enchilada, the Bell Beefer, menu items that blurred the line between categories, between cultures, between expectations. And later, things would get even stranger. Taco Bell realized something powerful. People didn't just want food, they wanted variety disguised as innovation. So instead of asking, what should we add, they started asking, what can we turn this into? And that mindset fueled explosive growth. More locations, more customers, more cultural relevance. By the 80s and 90s, Taco Bell was everywhere. Late nights, road trips, college campuses. It became part of the routine, part of the culture. And on the surface, everything looked perfect. The menu was bigger than ever, the brand was stronger than ever, and Taco Bell had successfully turned a handful of simple ingredients into an empire. But underneath all that growth, something subtle was happening. The more Taco Bell added, the further it moved away from what made it work in the first place. Because the original system wasn't built for endless expansion, it was built for simplicity. And now, that simplicity was almost completely gone. So what happens when a system designed to be simple becomes complicated? By the late 80s and early 90s, Taco Bell was at its peak, but the cracks had already started to form. Constant innovation doesn't stay exciting forever. Eventually, it becomes noise. As the menu kept growing, customers stopped noticing new items, not because they weren't interesting, but because there were too many of them. The menu started to feel crowded, complicated, less like a quick decision and more like a commitment. And that created friction, longer wait times, more mistakes, employees juggling dozens of combinations instead of a handful of simple builds. The very thing Taco Bell was built on, speed, started to slip. And then came the bigger issue, identity. The more Taco Bell experimented, the harder it became to answer a simple question. What is Taco Bell, actually? Was it Mexican food? Not really. Was it American fast food? Kind of, but not quite. Was it innovation? Sure, but innovation without limits starts to feel directionless. And this is where the cracks really started to show. When a brand tries to be everything, it risks becoming nothing specific. But instead of slowing down, they pushed further. More items, more experiments, more reinvention, until eventually they had no choice but to reverse course. By the early 2000s, Taco Bell had a problem. The menu had become too big, too complicated, too everything. So they started cutting. At first, it was subtle, a discontinued item, a limited time product that never came back, but over time, it became clear. The menu wasn't just evolving anymore, it was being simplified again. Classic items disappeared, fan favorites vanished, and in 2020, it all came to a head. A massive menu purge. Items removed across the board, not because they weren't popular, but because they slowed things down. They didn't fit the system anymore. And just like that, the transformation was complete. The company that started with simplicity had become so complex that it had to destroy parts of itself to survive. And in the process, something important disappeared. Not just menu items, but identity. Today, Taco Bell is bigger than ever. New items, limited time drops, constant reinvention. But the original menu never really disappeared. It just changed roles. Now, it's nostalgia. Every time something comes back, it reminds people of a simpler version of Taco Bell, even if that version doesn't fully exist anymore. Taco Bell isn't trying to go backward. It's built on change, constant change. Build something, sell it, remove it, bring it back, repeat. And that cycle is exactly what keeps people coming back. Because at Taco Bell, the menu isn't really a menu, it's a story. So next time you order Taco Bell and that new item feels weirdly familiar, that's because it probably is, just repackaged, rebranded, and served back to you like it never left. If you want more deep dives into the rise, fall, and hidden history of the foods you eat every day, subscribe to Eat This Story, because the best part of the meal is the story behind it.